Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R Chat for Sunday, September 16th, 2018. Victor Newman and Jack Abbott, half-brothers? Our YRChat.com poll question of the week. Do you like the idea of this twist, or are you not buying it at all? Nothing is a foregone conclusion, of course. At the time that we're talking about this, it's all just speculation, but in the interest of chat, I'm gonna assume that it's a real possibility, that it's true, that Victor and Jack could be half-brothers. And also in the interest of providing you with fair and balanced Y&R reporting here on Y&R Chat, first I'm gonna tell you why I like this twist, and then I'm gonna tell you why I hate it. But I'm gonna start with the positive. All right, right off the bat, John Abbott Sr., Jack's father, has been dead since 2006. Viewers who have not been watching the show for a decade probably don't have any connection to him, maybe don't even remember him. So from a writer's perspective, I can understand why it would be tempting to give Jack a paternity twist, because it would give Jack's character some new challenges, internal and external, some different material to play with. And this is not the first time that Y&R has done something like this. And I'll give you an example from my own viewing experience. I started watching the show in 1993. So in the early 90s, there wasn't much mention of the original founding families of the show. So I never knew a thing about the Foster family except for in flashbacks or reading it in books. So in 2003, when Y&R made Catherine Chancellor and Jill Foster mother and daughter, I was rocked by that twist. I thought it was amazing. I mean, all I ever knew of Jill and Catherine was their legendary feud, and now here they are being forced into family. I mean, that was my story, man. I was really into it. It was my story. It was my time as a viewer who had been watching the show for around 10 years at the time. And to this day, I will never believe anything but that Catherine Chancellor was Jill's mother. That's just, it's what stuck in my mind. But to Y&R fans who had maybe been watching the show since the beginning, what was such a great twist for me very possibly drove you crazy because you remembered the Foster family and you thought, blah, blah. So I don't want to be insensitive to fans of the show who haven't been watching for decades, which, let's face it, is probably not even the majority of fans at this point. We want new viewers to feel engaged and to have plot twists, paternity twists that rock their world. And I don't want to let my grumpy old inner longtime fan take over. I don't want to be that type of fan. I think that Eric Braeden and Peter Bergman are both incredible actors. They just seethe in the scenes that they're in together to this day. So watching them learn, watching the characters of Victor and Jack learn how to not only tolerate each other, but to care for each other, I think could, especially as they're getting up there in age, produce some really, really amazing scenes, some amazing material. But I am just not sure that this is the paternity twist story to be telling right now. If the writers hadn't already just dragged us, kicking and screaming, down the rabbit hole of Philip Chancellor, no, Neil Fenmore, maybe Stuart Brooks being Jack's father, then I might be a little more open. If this was the first time that I was coming to the realization and trying to accept that John Abbott was not Jack Abbott's father, I might be actually open to Victor and Jack being related. But now I'm just emotionally tired of it all. I just want it to be done. The Abbott family was this close to coming back together, and now we know that Ashley is going to be gone. I'm just looking for some stability here with my Abbotts. And if Y&R did have to give Jack a long-lost brother, if they did have to travel down this road of a paternity twist, then why couldn't Jack have discovered that he was related to Paul? Remember him? Remember Paul? Victor's got enough going on. He's always front and center on the scene. I don't think Victor needs this. I think the relationship that Victor needs to work on and that needs repair is not Victor and Jack and their decades-old long feud. It's Victor's relationship with Nick and everything that's going on between he and his son now. Jack and Victor being brothers or half-brothers doesn't affect anything with the show. As soon as Victor identified the man in Dina's mystery photo as being Albert Miller, right away Victor got very paranoid that Jack was going to somehow use this information against him or against Newman Enterprises. How? How would that even be a problem for you or for Newman Enterprises? Victor didn't inherit his company, so Jack would have no legal claims to anything that is Victor's. The most Jack could do would be a thorn in Victor's paw? That's it. So I don't know. I'm not sure that it serves a real compelling purpose here, but you know what? It's entirely possible that it could all turn out to be yet another red herring. I mean, this time last week, we thought that maybe Neil Fenmore could be Jack's dad and that Jack and Lauren were going to end up being related. And that whole notion lasted all of, what, 10 minutes? I mean, we had that cliffhanger for Friday, and it was resolved within the middle of Monday's show. Lauren was real quick to do some blood-type research on her phone and rule out that possibility immediately. She did not want to have to discover that both she and her sister, Jill, had slept with their brother. Ewy, ewy, ewy. And I remembered very clearly Jack and Jill being involved, but I don't remember Lauren and Jack being involved. I need to go back and do some research on that. It had to have been a flash in the pan, right? I don't remember them having a long relationship. Do you? Is there anybody out there who actually remembers Lauren and Jack? If so, leave me some comment. The thing that they did skip over real quickly, though, was Stuart Brooks also having been in the photo, and they mentioned that Jack also had slept with Peggy. The show is so incestuous anyway, but the fact that, if it was Stuart Brooks, he also would have slept with his sister. So I think in effect, saying that was Y&R's way of ruling it out as being Stuart Brooks without really having to spend a whole lot of time on it, because very quickly the conversation and all of the attention became drawn to the other mystery man in the photo who nobody seemed to recognize. All they could see was the way he was just leering at Dina, deliciously wanting to devour her. Oh. Abby decides to come in and help Jack determine who the man in the mystery photo is. She offered to post it to her social media accounts, and she ultimately convinced Mariah to do a GC Buzz episode all about family trees. And Mariah posted this photo and broadcasted it out to the GC Buzz viewing audience, hoping that someone would be able to tell them who the mystery man is and help someone discover a little bit more about their family tree. Now, who happens to be sitting off lunching on the sidelines as this broadcast is going on? Someone who very much knows who the mystery man in the photo is. Victor! The mystery man is Albert Miller, Victor's father. When I saw Victor's face as he put together the pieces of what's going on here and what the implications of that might be, I expected him to just zip his lip, never say another word about it. I was shocked that he actually told Nikki that he could identify the man, and just that he recognized the photo and all of the feelings that came up as a result of that. And it was Nikki who first uttered to the audience what we were all thinking, that Victor, this means that after all these years, Jack could be your half-brother. Oh, after all of this time, can you believe it? I mean, I think to Victor, it's just more of a mild irritation, just like, will this guy ever go away? I can't seem to shake him. He's like the flu and he just keeps coming back. Oh, see, that's why I feel like if I was a newer viewer and not a salty, old, decades-long viewer, that I would be a little more excited about this. I think some of me not liking it is probably my cynicism. It's possible that it's going to turn out to be a really great storyline. And, you know, I liked that Victor brought Nikki in on it. I like that this is something he didn't try to keep from her. It seems like they're working as a team a little bit more now, and I wish I could set the whole Victor Jack brother thing aside and instead focus on Victor developing a really cool working relationship with his wife, Nikki. I think that would have been a better road to travel down, but that's not what we're getting. Even the seemingly infinite power and control of Victor Newman is no match for the GC Buzz viewing audience. Of course, someone was going to recognize the photo, and it just so happened to be Matt Miller, Victor's brother. Matt saw his father in this old photo on his screen, called into GC Buzz. Mariah relays this information to Abby. So little by little, the information starts to trickle out, whether Victor wants it to or not. Abby goes to Ashley with the information first, and Ashley tries to convince Abby not to tell Jack. Just don't even mention anything about it. We don't want another false hope for Jack. I mean the audience. I mean Jack. But Abby really feels that Jack should have this information. She at first agrees to go along with her mom's plan, but she has a change of heart, realizes that she can't keep this secret from the man who's been longing to know who his father is, longing to put together the pieces on who he is. And at the very close of Friday's episode, Abby did open up to Jack and tell him the truth. And we see Jack and his shocked face realizing what his fate might very well become. Oh. In the previews for next week, We also see Jack and Victor having a little family chat. A little chat about their family tree. Jack's trying to get some info from Victor about the man who could potentially be his father. I mean, I don't know if this is going to turn out to be true. It could all be a false alarm, but Y&R is definitely going to take it here. They are bringing back Matt Miller for a total of 4 episodes. So we're getting some Victor. We're gonna dig into this, whether it turns out to be true or not. The actor who was cast to play Matt is a man named Richard Gleason. I didn't recognize him, but maybe you have. He's done a lot of primetime TV. He's not the original Matt Miller. Also, now I wasn't watching in the 80s when Victor's brother came about, but I do have a vague whiff of a recollection of him coming back in and around the early 2000s to tell Victor that their father was dying. And it was Nick, by the way, who accompanied Victor, traveling to go see Albert on his deathbed to visit him one more time, only to discover that Victor's father was the exact same deadbeat that he always was. It produced some great, great scenes by the late George Kennedy, who played Albert Miller, and also by Eric Braeden and Josh Morrow. I mean, these were very, very memorable scenes as Victor had that final confrontation with his father. We know that this is an extremely important part of Victor's life. That lack of a father, that feeling of abandonment is what caused him to become the man that he became. And with all of this dust being kicked up around a very, very sore spot of Victor's that Nick is very much well aware of, I wonder if there's any chance that it might also kick up some healing power between Victor and his own son. OMG, Nick looks so sexy in his brand new office. I loved all of the gorgeous shots of the brand new Dark Horse Tower. We got all of these scenes of not only the office itself, but of the view of Genoa City from high atop Dark Horse Tower. We had Nick looking out upon his universe at night, seeing all of the buildings twinkling in the background. His universe, the universe that he is ready to go out and conquer. I mean, how many times have we seen Victor looking out his office window in the exact same way? It was really cool. I also liked the way it was filmed as Nick kind of gave us a tour of the new office. You could see him. He was strolling around looking at the place for the first time, but really it was him inviting us, the audience, into his brand new office. I thought it's gorgeous. I like more than anything the way that it's lit. It just looks good. It just makes everyone look good in it too. I love the cluster of red lights that's hanging right above Nick's desk, because it does cast a little bit of redness on him as he's standing behind his desk, makes him look extra powerful and maybe even a little bit menacing. Then there was this cooling effect that was coming down from this skylight, and it just made Nick and Sharon both look young and glowing. I thought Arturo did a very good job on Nick's new office, and Nick rewarded him with a job at Dark Horse. Arturo is now going to be the official builder of things. That's on his business card. Official builder of things for Dark Horse International. Arturo was a little reluctant to accept that position, but he did. He ended up taking it and announcing it at the Dark Horse launch party. There's something going on there. I want to know more about why Arturo was so reluctant reluctant to take that position, and also why, when he was being interviewed by the media about it, why did he seem like he didn't want the world to know? He ended up, he's having this dual interview with him and Abby is trying to pump him up a little bit, saying, Arturo, don't try to downplay yourself. You're getting this great new position. Tell the world about it. And she won't stop talking about it. So he sweeps her up into a very passionate kiss. But to me, it read as, just shut up. Like he just wanted her to shut up. What or who is it out there that Arturo, why doesn't he want this information to get out? He's hiding something. We got to get to the bottom of what that is. But he looked really good. He got kind of a tighter new haircut. I thought Arturo was stepping it up even a little bit as he's come back from his business trip. He looked really good. Everybody looked really good. My best dressed for the Dark Horse launch party, though, has got to go to Abby. I just thought she looked so pretty in her lace dress. It's a scenario where lace just really worked on someone. I also really liked Victoria's silky pink dress with the 3/4 sleeves. I saw a few people saying they didn't like that very much, but I liked it. I almost always like what Victoria is wearing. Sharon also blew me away in that light blue gown with this big, beautiful flower accent. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And I mean, Nick, I'm sorry, Nick looked pretty good. He just looked really good. He was really clean shaven, and I don't know, he looked like powerful in his suit, and he looked younger and fresher and more in control. I think it's a good scenario or a good instance of Nick was wearing that set. The set was not wearing him, you know. He was owning it. It was real good. I was very into Nick during the Dark Horse launch party. I mean, everyone was having such a good time celebrating Nick's accomplishment with the new company and the vision for the new company. Everyone except Victor. A little bit. I should have known that he was being way too accepting by agreeing that Nikki and Victoria should go to the launch party, but implying that he was just gonna hang back. No. Sure enough, he shows up at the launch party and draws all of the focus away from Nick onto himself, and in front of the cameras is telling everyone how Nick learned everything he knows from his father. You know, he was trying to make it all about him. And it wasn't 2 minutes after Victor arrived that Detective Ray Rosales shows up at the party, breaks in through the door, tells everyone to freeze, and then he struts in, by the way, freezing for one moment to give an apologetic look at Sharon, and then walks by her and everyone else right up to Nick and arrests him in front of everyone, hauls him down to the police station. Oh, the look on Nick's face. He was furious. He wasn't even humiliated. I don't think he was worried about the bad press. He was just angry, and it was coming off of him. I mean, Ray forces him to stand there in a police lineup while the computer nerd guy who Nick paid to hack the Newman Enterprises systems positively ID'd him. Ooh, hot seat for Nicholas Newman. I mean, Ray thinks that Nick is working with JT. We were correct in thinking that Ray's real target was not JT, but Nick. And Ray thinks that Nick knows where JT is hiding and is actively working with him and wants still to get JT and bring him in for justice. But I did like that Ray was trying to focus on Nick in a little bit of a more subtle way. Nick immediately retains Brittany Hodges as his attorney. I love her. She's fun. I want more Brittany. She's smart. She advises Nick to sign Ray's offer of immunity. Ray says, I'm gonna offer you complete and total immunity if you just tell me everything that you know about JT, which, by the way, is a really big leap of faith. It's putting a lot of trust in Nick, but Nick did not disappoint. He did. He signs the deal. Nick signs the deal, then lets Ray know that he wasn't helping JT. He wasn't working with JT. He was JT. It was funny to me that Ray thought Nick was in cahoots with a wanted felon, and yet Ray took Nick's word for everything he was saying as complete gospel. And not only that, but Ray seemed to really identify with what Nick was saying. Ray understood suspiciously and intriguingly, and I think forecastingly, that Nick has a troubled relationship with his father. Ray just got that and pretty much took a step back and said, yeah, sorry, bro. I guess you're totally legit. Sorry about that. And in return, Nick was ready to forgive Ray right away. Nick was fuming an hour ago, and all of a sudden he's like, it's cool, man. You're not a bad guy. You're just doing your job. I think that Nick and Ray are the real love story that's brewing here. Nick and Ray are falling in love. Not Ray and Sharon, as we've been speculating. Because Sharon is not willing to forgive Ray right away. In fact, she's mad at him for sneaking around and pretending to just be Mr. Nice Guy plumber friend when all the while he was gathering evidence for the police against Nick and to get to the bottom of where JT might be. And also, Sharon rightly realizes that Ray has humiliated Nick. I mean, he chose one of the most important nights of Nick's life to make this big arrest, and Sharon thought that was a little inappropriate. I mean, it's later in the week, it was Nick, I think, who, or maybe it was Abby, who mentioned that actually the fact that the company's called Dark Horse and Nick got arrested at the launch party makes it seem a little extra edgy, so it kind of works in our favor. But yeah, Sharon was not happy with him. I mean, nobody was happy with him. Ray now has to make his apologies known around town to the Newmans. You know, he did try to get close to them under the guise of friendship, and he was secretly working for the police. And not only does Ray owe apologies to the Newmans, but he owes some apologies to the GCPD chief of police. Paul was none too happy about the fact that Ray had a false arrest that led nowhere, and also that he granted Nick immunity in exchange for pretty much nothing. I completely got where Paul was coming from. I mean, this Ray's coming in, sitting at Paul's desk, doing Paul's job, and he didn't really get anything in return. Ray insists that now he has something to go on. No, actually, Nick did tell me something. Nick admitted that JT was at the house with the women on Margarita night. That was the last time anybody saw him. Well, yeah. Nick didn't need to tell you that. Paul already knew that. All this means now is that Ray has a reason to turn around and put pressure on Victoria and Nikki. And with the way that they've both been looking and feeling lately, one of them might just crack. Billy discovers a line item in Ashley's budget for a payment to a company called Type A Consulting. And then at the end of Friday's show, Ashley is on the phone with someone from Type A Consulting, telling them to just keep pretending that they're doing R&D research for her, just in case anybody starts asking any questions. Type A Consulting? Is this Ashley's secret consulting company for her Type A personality? Or could that be a clever name for a company that does something with blood types? Type A, blood types. I am wanting to make a connection there, but I'm not fully sure what it would be. I am not sure where this is going. This one's a big question mark for me. We're still waiting to find out what's going to happen first. Is Ashley going to find a way to boot Billy out of Jabot, or is Billy going to end up booting himself out of Jabot in disgrace? I was really expecting that Billy was going to lose his hat in Vegas. I thought he was going to lose the clothes right off his back, but he didn't. In fact, he kept on his winning streak and he won his tournament. He was validated, and so much so that the runners of this poker tournament invited him to come back next weekend for another poker tournament. All the while, Phyllis is looking at him in the background, wishing that this would all just go away. Because now, coming back next weekend isn't even soon enough. Billy can't even wait until then. He's betting on horse races now and losing, and betting on other sports events and losing, and cashing in his investments to gamble. He's gambling, and it's unhealthy, because what's concerning me, moreover, is that he's starting to develop tunnel vision about the gambling. He's no longer talking about Jabot. He's no longer pumping up Jabotique. He's no longer really even listening to Phyllis and engaging with Phyllis. There was a moment in the week where Phyllis tried to talk to Billy a little bit about her concerns with Summer, and he just blew her off, acted like it was a non-problem. He didn't want to think about anything except where he was going to get his next fix. And he's being so loud and so boisterous about it. I mean, he's calling out about his, the horse racing and the gambling from the CEO's office. That's if an employee walked by and saw that, heard that, that's a really bad sign for the company. And someone did overhear him doing it. Gloria. Now, Gloria has this loyalty to the Abbott family and to Jabot, and she really, truly, genuinely doesn't want anything bad to happen to the Abbotts or to John's legacy. So she tells Billy pretty much that she heard everything, she knows what's going on, and she's on his side. But the next person to walk by and hear him doing that might not be. And it's true, because the next person is Kyle. Kyle is rifling through Billy's garbage can in his office, and he finds some sports stats written on a piece of paper, and he actually takes it to Gloria, thinking that maybe Gloria is going to give him some more information. I mean, they have been in cahoots together in the past, but Gloria doesn't give, and honestly, Kyle doesn't need her to. Kyle already knows that Billy is gambling again. Kyle already knows that Billy has fallen off the wagon. He helped push him. It's payday for Kyle Abbott. The moment that he's been waiting for, longing for, he won the bet with Summer. She is obligated to sleep with him now. In fact, they make it all the way to the hotel room, and he's trying to have a good time with Summer. The writing on the wall is that they're gonna sleep together, but Kyle is trying his best to recreate the connection that they once shared, that was once very real and very mutual. He's talking with her about all of the good times they've had together. They're taking a stroll down memory lane. He even tries to do this adorably sexy little striptease to make it fun. That it's not just some mechanical thing that's happening here. He wants to create some kind of emotional connection with Summer, something besides just meaningless sex, because for him it's not just meaningless sex. I think he was hoping that at the end of this bet, that she was going to rediscover her love for him, that this was just part of the road of their reunion. But Summer is so committed to being this new Summer. The new Summer doesn't get walked on. The new Summer doesn't get cheated on. She doesn't have others screwing her over because she's doing the screwing first. And I think Summer's very afraid to go back to the old ways of doing things because that's where you get hurt. So she's really, every time she's even close to relaxing, she very quickly snaps back into the new Summer role. Every time she starts to get comfortable, she snaps back into saying, you know what, let's just go ahead and get this sex over with. And really, who wants to do it that way? Who really wants sex that way? Not Kyle. He ends up pretending to be so drunk that he passes out and falls asleep, but he's pretending. Like, Summer's off in the other room changing into something sexy, and he just fakes it so that he can get out of it. It was really heartbreaking. I felt awful for him, and in that moment, like, I was just waiting for the camera to pan to his face to see if his eyes would open, because that moment spoke volumes about who he is, what he wants, and what this whole bet has all been about. Because Kyle has danced around it. He's danced around his feelings for Summer for so long, but he's realizing that he really loves her for some reason. The next morning, she wakes up, he's gone, and he's also dodging her text messages. He talks to Mariah and says that he still sees this glimmer of the person that Summer used to be. Yeah, she may have this bad new exterior, but that doesn't make who you are in your heart go away. And he felt like he was really close to making a connection with that, and he just wasn't able to. Even Phyllis, by the way, is starting to soften on Summer. She is seeing signs of someone who she used to know, someone who maybe just wants to be understood. It's clear that Y&R and the writing is trying to bring us back around on Summer. They've taken us to the edge with everything that happened with Billy, and now they're pulling it back and trying to show us some of her softer sides. But it's not going to be easy when you've developed that much of a tough skin. You don't just snap back into being a kitten heart right away. The next day, Summer tracks Kyle down at the coffee house, and Kyle is still in full-on dodge mode. They sit down and they start to talk about what happened, and she calls him out about the fact that he was faking to get out of their bet, and she asks him why. And Kyle was very brave in that scene. He decided to admit to Summer something that I think he's been having a really hard time admitting to himself, which is that he loves her. And she, in turn, admits to him that she loves him like a brother. Ouch. Just ouch. I felt him dying inside. He put himself out there for her, and she only sees him like a brother who she was gonna sleep with, by the way. Totally willing to sleep with, by the way. I mean, I don't know if we're supposed to believe that or not. I think time's gonna tell. I think next week maybe we'll get some more info on that. Was Summer just fronting? Was she just saying, I only love you like a brother because she doesn't want to let herself get hurt again? Or is that how she really feels? I don't know the answer to that. The only thing I know is that it's just too bad that there's not some sexy new Cuban food truck driver in town who might be able to help Kyle take his mind off of this rejection. I love Lola. I was not expecting to have this reaction to Arturo and Ray's sister coming onto the scene, but I love her. She's gorgeous and sassy and smart and ambitious. She is so cool, and man, I love that she owns a freaking food truck and that we got to see it. That is so cool. I'm just in love with this concept, and I'm really liking the actress. I just like her whole vibe. Like, Kyle comes up to order one of her sandwiches with a bunch of modifications. He wants it his way, and she just puts him right in his place and makes him eat the damn sandwich the way it was intended to be eaten. She had me at sandwich. I just think that these two could be so hot together. I'm completely in for it. I mean, as much as I love Summer, move over, Summer. There is a new Supergirl in town. Kyle and Lola could be like the hottest new couple on the show right now, unless that it turns out that Jack's real father is Mr. Rosales. I am so torn about Tessa, because either she is truly an innocent victim who deserves my pity and I am a complete jerk for doubting her, or she is an incredible villain, like on a professional level. And moment by moment, my opinion changes on that. I don't know which way to go. In the column of wanting to trust Tessa, there is a check mark for the idea that if all she really wanted was to scam money out of these people, she could have done that a year ago. Yet going around town and asking people for money is a very quick way to raise red flags. After Devon turns down Tessa's loan application request, Tessa goes to Sharon for a quick payday loan. Sharon's payday loan hut. And Sharon did give Tessa an advance on her barista salary, although Sharon most definitely saw it more as a payoff so that Tessa would stop flapping her gums to Ray. But the fact that now Tessa has successfully gotten some money and that Sharon has done her a favor, it's enough to make Sharon go to Mariah and have a heart-to-heart and force Mariah to at least look at the fact that maybe Tessa isn't trustworthy. It puts Mariah in a really bad spot because Mariah doesn't want to be disrespectful of Tessa by distrusting her, and she doesn't also even really want Tessa to know that she's doubting her because it undermines the relationship that she's trying to build. But there are enough unanswered questions here that deserve to be answered, and Mariah starts to allow her doubts to take root. On the night of Nick's Dark Horse launch party, Mariah gets all dressed up in this like super sexy red dress. Like, she's looking better than she's ever looked. And then she casually drops by the coffee house where Tessa is working. Yeah, right. Nobody puts on a dress like that, gets all dolled up, and doesn't want to be seen. Please, Mariah, you're transparent there. You put on the sexiest dress that you could put on, and then you went up to Tessa and started asking her questions about whether she was really into you or not. I see through you. Because also, Mariah's there trying to give Tessa the cold shoulder, acting like she doesn't want Tessa to see her, please. And of course, Tessa is gonna try to find out what's going on. Why is Mariah giving me the cold shoulder? But that's when Mariah starts to really question her, to really put on the pressure, and says, can you, Tessa, provide any evidence that what you've told me is true? And of course, Tessa can't. Everything with the bad guys is untraceable. The phone calls, the texts that she's receiving. She can't prove it in any way. So Mariah storms off to go to the Dark Horse party. And since Tessa wasn't able to convince Mariah, the next best thing that she can do is track Mariah down at the party and tell her, for the first time, that she loves her. She says it. She says the words. And it was very romantic, and maybe it's true. Maybe Tessa is completely genuine, and this is something that's been on the tip of her tongue for months and months and months. And maybe this was the romantic moment on the surface that it's meant to be. But in the column of not trusting Tessa, saying I love you does not erase the legitimate questions that are still on the table. The I love you pacifies Mariah completely and immediately. She's only been waiting for this moment for a year now. So Sharon is the one who's left to be convinced of Tessa's innocence. And this week, Sharon finds herself in the exact same spot that Mariah was in when Tessa was in Canada, on the phone with Tessa while something dangerous is happening. It's like a confirmation bias, almost. Mariah goes away on assignment, leaving Tessa manning the coffee house while Sharon is busy manning Nick. He's just gotten out of prison. She needs to give him his proper welcome home party. Tessa can handle things at the store. She'll be fine. But Tessa calls Sharon just to ask how to clean the espresso machine. Oh, I've got some downtime. I know you're with your man, but I've got some downtime right now. And before the rush, I wanted to just clean the espresso machine for you. I wanted to do something extra for you. And while Tessa's on the phone with Sharon, Sharon hears a tussle in the background. Tessa's telling someone to get out of there, and there's breaking glass, and Sharon is terrified. She rushes to the coffee house, finds Tessa there beaten and bruised and trying to cover it up. And Tessa, with a little bit of probing, admits that she doesn't think that it's just a robbery. It isn't just a random attack. This was targeted toward her. This is the bad guys sending her a message that it's time for her to pay up. And Sharon is rightly concerned. She tries to help Tessa. Sharon is someone who's worked at this crisis line, helping women who are in abuse situations get out. And so here she is seeing someone who needs help. It's like Sharon's whole vibe to want to help. So Sharon tells Tessa that she needs to call the police and she needs to go get medical attention, but Tessa refuses. It just so happened that Dr. Nate stumbles into the coffee house wanting a refill, and Sharon convinces him to examine her. He's able to confirm that these bruises that Tessa now has all over her body, not on her face, just on like her arms and her back, all of these bruises, I mean, they're real, but they're surface. They're not like serious in a you're gonna bleed internally and die kind of way, but it's still serious. The situation is serious. Nate recommends that Tessa get medical attention and to report it and to stop protecting whoever it is that's doing this to her. In the column of wanting to trust Tessa, I can understand that Tessa thinks how if she can just pay these guys off, it'll all go away. She even goes as far, though, as to erase the security footage that Crimson Lights has. Like, immediately after getting beaten up, she finds her way to the security cameras and she erases the tape so that no one can see who this person is, who, by the way, was unidentifiable, didn't show their face, didn't say a word, and she erases any evidence that they were even there. And I can understand that she didn't, I can make the leap that she didn't want anyone to go against her wishes and go to the police for her, but that was one of her first reactions. Like, she did that before Sharon even got there. I don't know. I mean, I guess I can get the logic in a way, but also I feel that this should be a wake-up call for Tessa. If Tessa's on the up and up, then shouldn't this just be a wake-up call to her that coming back to Genoa City at all is just further putting in danger the people that she cares about? What if Mariah or Sharon or Faith or Christian just so happened to be at the coffee house when all of this went down? Or what if Tessa is not able to pull together the money and the bad guys decide that the next time they teach her a lesson, it's going to be by going after someone that she loves? See, the thing that just, it doesn't make sense to me about Tessa is that the one thing that Tessa has said from the very beginning was that she loves Mariah. She wants to protect Mariah. And if she really, really wanted to protect Mariah, then why is she putting her in harm's way? She has to know that her presence, merely her presence there, would be putting Mariah and Mariah's family in harm's way. So why is she doing the one thing that she said she doesn't want to do? I don't know. Because in the end, Sharon ended up buying it. I mean, Sharon was totally convinced. She ended up apologizing to Tessa for ever doubting her. And then I felt bad for doubting her. But I still hope in the back of my mind that Sharon does continue to keep an eye on this. Sharon has 3 kids to think about, and 2 of them are little. Whether it's real or imagined, Tessa brings with her danger. And just for the sake of argument, can we just, like, is it totally bad of me to just entertain for a moment the possibility that this could all still be an act? I mean, I cringe to even think like that. I don't want to say that. What kind of person would stage to have themselves beaten up. But maybe this is a strength of the storyline, because my head is in a million different places with this. I think one moment that I feel awful for Tessa, and then in another moment I think she's a horrible person who totally just made all this up. I mean, it really has my mind going in a million different directions. But it is awfully convenient, right, that nothing she's saying is traceable. There are absolutely no witnesses. There is now no security footage. And every time there's a legitimate question on the table about it, there's never an actual answer from her. There's always just some sort of emotional response, almost like a diversionary tactic that gets created due to some incident, whether it's an "I love you" or this attack and the concern for Tessa's safety. I just don't know. And are the bad guys harassing and beating up Crystal too, or just the sister who has the connection to the billionaire family? Last week's Y&R Chat poll, did Lily receive a fair sentence? 83% of you said yes, Lily did receive a fair sentence, with 17% of you saying no. Well, most certainly the Ashby family does not feel that this is a fair sentence, although Lily herself is taking it really well. Charlie has been skipping school, and I can understand that on a level. He can't really concentrate. He doesn't want to answer a bunch of questions. Everyone in his class knows what's just happened to his mother. He really just wants to drop out of school altogether. The one person that he feels he can connect with is Shauna, and he skips school one day, shows up at Devon's condo to talk to Shauna, but Shauna is there alone. She tells him, whoa, 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 you cannot be here when no one else is here. And he says, no, I want to talk to you for just a second. And of course, in that second, Devon walks in, and he sees them in a situation where they were in when the beginning of this horrific sequence of events happened. And Devon, I have to give him credit, because I was afraid he was gonna lose it. And he tried so hard to keep it together, and he did a great job, because seeing them there in that moment could have sent him in a tailspin, and it didn't. Instead, Devon ends up having a heart-to-heart with Charlie. Shauna says, you know what, he's messed up. Why don't you just talk to him? I'll leave you guys alone. And they sit down and they do try to talk. And I think that Devon wasn't sugarcoating the way that he felt, but Charlie was very insistent that Devon give a little more, that Devon try a little harder. And Charlie makes Devon a deal and says, all right, you know what? I will go back to school and I will continue on with my life if you just go and visit my mom. I'm not sure why exactly that was so important, except I suppose that Charlie saw this as something that Lily emotionally really needed. Maybe it was the one thing he felt that he could do for his mother now. And Devon actually does make good on that deal. The Ashbys are visiting Lily in prison. Charlie is there expressing his concern for her and for her safety. Maddie is now studying law to try to find a way to get Lily out of prison early. I loved her homemade, handmade, free Lily tea. Probably made with some like organically sourced cotton. It was adorable. I am expecting that she'll be selling those on Etsy. Oh, and you know, at the very last minute, just when everything seemed so bleak, Devon shows up. He saves the day. He was like a ray of sunshine in that prison waiting room, just coming through the clouds and giving some hope to Lily and telling her that he's sorry that she's in this situation and that he loves her, and more importantly, that he forgives her. You know, I'm glad to see Devon come around. My only criticism is the speed at which it happened. Like, Devon had a complete and total perspective change overnight. I wish it maybe would have been a little bit more gradual so that it didn't seem so jarring and maybe even a little bit cheesy. The only thing I can imagine is that maybe Nate's constant banging at Devon's head with the sledgehammer of forgiveness finally got through. I adore risque. Oh, that was such a fun moment from last week's show. Summer busts into the Abbott mansion and starts having an argument with Phyllis over their mother-daughter boyfriend triangle. Meanwhile, Kyle and Dina are sitting on the couch in the background eating popcorn, and Dina says, "Oh, I love risque." I thought that was a really, really funny moment, and quite a few of you picked up on it too. Anna, Heather, Nancy, Henry, Rose, Laura, Diana, Tanya, Michelle, and Sherry all guessed that that quote came from Dina. Here's a new one for the week. Who said this? "I need to buy you a beer." I need to buy you a beer. YRChat.com is where you can leave your guess, and if you get it right, then I will give you your congratulations on next week's Y&R Chat. We got a lot of good comments this week, and much to my surprise, most of the comments that I've seen so far were in disbelief of Tessa. I thought I was going to be the only one who was still questioning this girl, and I felt like a jerk for doing so the past several weeks after I'm looking at the bruises on her back. But most people that were commenting about Tessa were not believing her situation. It's almost as if this second incident, just where she got beaten up, worked against her with the fans, even though it turned Sharon and Mariah, or Sharon specifically, in an opposite direction. And I'm sure Mariah is going to be very, very concerned for Tessa next week. But it's almost like it worked in the opposite for the fans. Most people said, okay, no, 2 times, it's not real. In fact, Gary, who has been a Tessa supporter from the very beginning, was noting the similarity between the phone call that Mariah was on with Tessa in Canada, where trouble was heard in the background, and then the phone call that Sharon was on with Tessa. Gary says it just seems like a long-range con, with the first incident building sympathy for the second one to build on. Oh, I am so concerned, you know, Gary, because if Tessa is the kind of person who would stage this and beat herself up, I mean, that is like sick psychopath. And I don't really know if that's the vibe that I'm getting from Tessa. It's tough. It's really tough because she has if that's the case, she belongs in a mental institution. She's sick, and I feel really bad for how Mariah would ever recover from her first like real love being someone like this. I want to believe the best in Tessa, but I think that it is a little bit too much of gaps to ignore. I mean, it is a little bit convenient. Y&R can take this whichever way they want to, and I just don't know which way they will. Hey, at least Mariah will have Kyle to lean on if she does end up getting her heart broken by Tessa. Mary Kay says, I love the friendship between Mariah and Kyle. It's refreshing to see a friendship between a man and a woman without romantic feelings or changing or complicating things. I know there are still a lot of people who are hoping that Mariah and Kyle ultimately hook up, but I'd say we have our triangle for Kyle set with Summer and Lola. Gary also, I think Gary has been a supporter of Tessa's, but maybe mildly critical of Kyle. But Gary left a comment this week saying, you know what's cool about Kyle? He acts like I imagine a millennial would act. He's dealing with millennial type issues. He's just kind of a unique characterization, Gary says. And yes, I get that too. I mean, I'm not a millennial. I'm long past my 20s, the issues I've had in my 20s. But there are still many, many viewers who are millennials and who are in their 20s. And maybe they're seeing Kyle on screen and identifying with him. In general, I think that Y&R is trying to diversify their cast right now and doing so successfully. Like, they're making the character landscape much more representative of the landscape of their viewers, and they should be applauded for that. Ellen says, as Summer exits for her primetime show, it's time for Kyle and Lola, and they go on double dates with Arturo and Abby. Yes, the Y&R landscape does seem to be shifting. Yep. Diana says, I really enjoyed the outdoor scene with Kyle meeting Lola for the first time at the food truck. It makes Jabot feel more like a real company. Seeing a character eating fast food makes them more relatable and realistic. I like that point, that it does kind of make it feel like, oh, this is an office building. I don't know if we've ever seen any type of exterior of the Jabot building, but that is very real. Food trucks pull up, they park so people can get their lunch, get their dinner. I just think that was such a really cool way for Y&R to bring Lola onto our scenes. I thought it was very beautifully done. And yeah, I mean, big thumbs up. I like everything about this. Oh, let's talk about Billy for a minute, because Ellen also says, I hate this gambling storyline so much. Why can't they let Billy be a successful CEO with creative, cutting-edge ideas? I'm so tired of the Billy is a screw-up routine. Rinse, recycle, repeat. I know gambling is an addiction, but people do overcome it. This same show has pill addict Jack knocking back liquor all the time. I guess Jack is all powerful, but Billy will never change. Is that the message? It really is a shame. I agree with you, because I'm digging on Billy too, and I don't like seeing him go down this path. We did also have a moment this past week where Victoria was picking up on the fact that Billy's gambling again and that Phyllis is supporting it. And Victoria warns Phyllis in no uncertain terms. It's kind of interesting, because I guess those are the two approaches by the women in his life. I think that Phyllis is trying to be very supportive and to not push him and to be the anti-Victoria, because you know Victoria is going to get up in his face about it. She shares children with him. She's been the victim of this whole gambling addiction in the past. So I'm sure that we're going to see Victoria lay into him. And it is a shame. I think that Y&R could have taken this in a much cooler direction. I agree that Billy being the perpetual screw-up, it just does get old. Even though Jason Thompson is playing it for the first time and doing a really good job. I like him a lot. I mean, just the little choices that he makes in his acting are excellent. Okay, so this is the comment of the week, Superplex. I am so freaking happy about this. You nailed it. Here it comes. Ready? Superplex says, Ashley, is it at all possible that type A consulting has something to do with DNA testing? Ding, ding, ding. Is this the chimera of Jack's ancestral legacy, first as a chancellor, then as a miller, a consequence of your master plan? Part A, first, remove Jack in retribution for him forcing you out because you did not qualify as a blood abbot. Part B, undermine his replacement Billy, leaving the board no alternative but to substitute him with Tracy. And finally, Part C, Tracy calls for a vote to abolish the blood abbot clause, expediting your return to the CEO chair. Bravo, Superplex. That has got to be it. I'm dying right now because we saw the preview of Monday's show where Ashley is meeting with this guy. I'm assuming he's the type A consulting guru that she was on the phone with on Friday. And he's saying, wow, we've been working together for so long. That seems to suggest a long-term plan on Ashley's part, and maybe he was helping her at the DNA, with all of these DNA tests that have been going on around Jack. Oh, I wish. I wish. Does this mean then that the Jack and Victor thing will end up being a false alarm? I know, I'm afraid to almost to think it, because there is part of me, I'm just still like believing that Mal's gonna bring us back around to Jack being John's son. Maybe this was just a little pit stop on that journey of the story. It's certainly possible. Although Jamie did leave a comment saying about Victor and Jack's reveal that maybe this is the best outcome. At least they're not father and son. Yeah, I mean, I would say having them as brothers is certainly preferable to the idea that they would be father-son. So there's a little bit of sunshine from Jamie if indeed this does turn out to be the permanent direction. It's very possible that Y&R is going to make them brothers and just leave it there and clunk it there. Maybe let the next writer undo it. I'm sure that'll be happening in the next couple years. Y&R can't seem to keep anybody there. CBS seems to have some trouble. Leslie, also in the vein of enjoying the Victor-Jack brotherhood, says, I really hope we get to see Nikki playing the piano while Jack and Victor sing Frosty the Snowman at Christmas. I know, that was funny. I mean, I like the visual of it. Maybe Victor and Jack in matching sweaters, having a mug of cocoa with like piled high with whipped cream and marshmallows, and then Nikki off in the background, her piano decorated with garland, and she's playing Frosty the Snowman. Maybe Victor brings Jack in for a bro hug and they sing along, and yeah, that could be fun. Oh, let's see. Let's talk about Ray. Laura says, well, no, actually, yeah. Well, what does everyone think of the Dark Horse set, Laura says? I think it looks sleek and under budget. Just kidding. I like it overall, but it may be a little too pointy. Maybe fewer triangular accessories. Laura, are you worried that you're going to go to the Dark Horse offices and you're going to get entangled in a compromising situation with Nick? Maybe things get a little hot in the office and Nick accidentally bumps you up against one of those pointy accessories. You can we'll go through and do a Laura proofing of the set before anything goes down between you and Nick. Yeah, I liked the set, but I thought I'd invite all the other Y&R chatters to come on out and give your impressions of the new Dark Horse set. Do you find it too pointy? Anna, finally getting to Ray here, has a prediction. Anna says, I think that Ray helped Arturo out of a jam when he did something illegal. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Anna, because there most definitely was something that Arturo did not want the world to see. He did not want that limelight. And that's probably the reason why he didn't accept Nick's job offer right away. He was very uncomfortable with the idea of anyone seeing him. Is it something like the authorities? Could Arturo be in hiding on some level or running from something that he did in his past? Or here's another idea. What if it's the other way around? What if Ray refused to help them out of a jam? What if maybe Ray ended up sending someone in the family to prison? I mean, that would make sense why Lola wouldn't want to see him. I mean, the fact that Ray was so zoned in on Nick's plight with Victor made me wonder if the real family drama that's going on there is about the Rosales father. Maybe Ray, being a cop, found out that the father was doing something illegal, turned him in, which is why he was identifying with Nick, and maybe the younger siblings, Arturo and Lola, resented him for it. The one theme that we did understand in the family dynamic was the fact that Ray was forced into a father-like position, which caused the younger children to resent him. Maybe Ray was forced to step into that father-like position because something happened with their real father. Maybe it was even before Ray had a job with the police. Maybe he just turned his dad in for something. I don't know. That's just my speculation. It could go any way. Oh, Diana, and then on this, said, well, when I last week said that Ray could be working for Paul since he wasn't progressing with the case, I never imagined that he may be replacing Paul. This is so upsetting. I can't imagine Y&R being without Doug Davidson. I've been hearing the rumors that Doug Davidson wasn't happy, as Allie mentioned. I thought maybe Ray could be Paul's partner as a way to bring him onto the show. The fact that we only see Ray sitting in Paul's chair and no sign of Paul doesn't look hopeful. Yeah, and then Paul did pop up. I think that Y&R only brought Paul back because they wanted to use that office set and they knew that the fans would not be happy with it. So they just brought Doug Davidson in for one episode. I did not realize that Doug's contract had been dropped down to recurring as of January. So he's been just on recurring status for this entire year. I didn't know that. I mean, I noticed there was a lack of Paul, but I didn't realize that they took that kind of drastic step. And it really is very sad, as he's the oldest cast member. I don't know what's wrong with Paul. Why don't they want to use him? I mean, the thing that Diana says is it would have been a perfect opportunity to make Paul partners with Ray. Okay, I get it. You want to bring in some hot, new, fresh meat for the viewers. Fine. But why not include Paul in that? Like, Y&R loves to give us a hot cop. I get it. But why can't Paul assist with that? He's just fallen off onto the abyss, and I think it's a real mistake, and it's intentional. I can see why Doug Davidson is not happy about it, and he's not. I mean, if you Google that, I think Doug has tried to tiptoe around the fact that he's not happy about it. I mean, he doesn't say anything to disparage Y&R. By all accounts, he seems like a really lovely guy, like probably one of the nicest guys, I bet ya. So he doesn't want to say anything disparaging, and he loves Y&R. They've given him a lot, but I just really don't understand why they are intentionally separating him. Seems like he wants to work, and they're just choosing not to build storylines around him. I mean, how cool would it be if Paul had a new partner in Ray, or if a new brother in Jack? Sometimes I think that Y&R should just mine storyline ideas from the Y&R chatters, because we always come up with all of these great creative alternative ideas for them. But then on the flip side, I also always think, man, I'm glad I don't work for Y&R, or that I'm not associated with them in any way, because then I would feel like I couldn't say what I wanted to say. And part of the reason I really love Y&R Chat is I feel that I can just come on here and give my opinion, and I don't have to sugarcoat it, and if I don't like something, I can say that I don't like something. I like having a little bit of license to complain, even though I do try to love it more than I complain about it. But yeah, sometimes the things that they do make me scratch my head. And I know you guys feel that way too. So why don't you tell me what is making you scratch your head this week? YRChat.com is the website. I have to admit, that is the place that I check first and foremost, and probably the most often. And I have been chiming in there in the comment section as much as I can as I'm watching the shows. So if you want to get a comment into me during the week as you're watching, or just to say, hey, yrchat.com is a good place to do it. I tend to just kind of collate comments from there, and I do most definitely appreciate all of the feedback that you guys give me. If you have any feedback about the website, or if there's anything else Y&R Chat related that you'd like to see or you don't like to see, improvement ideas, please leave them there as well. But I mean, in the absence of anything else, I will just be back next week, and we will find out who Jack's father, where will we be on Jack's father trail? Who, at this time next week, who will we think is Jack's father? Because we've already been through the ringer with all these different people. Maybe we will find out that Jack's father is Mr. Rosales. He's related to Ray and Arturo and Lola. I mean, don't you almost kind of like the idea of Jack in the Arturo, Ray, Lola family photos at Christmas? That could be just as entertaining. Okay, all right, everybody. I love you, and I will see you next Sunday. Have a good one. Bye.